Now for the DM question of the week.
The DM question of the week is, what is railroading?
And how to avoid it.
It's very bad.
Yeah, this is a big question.
It makes your players cry.
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean,
cry.
railroading is bad, but I think it also...
It's not fun.
At all. It's obviously not. It's not fun, but I think railroading also is misdiagnosed a lot of times. Like, I think some people might say, you're railroading me, but you're not actually railroading them. So before we do that, let's talk about what exactly railroading is. So, in the name, trains run on tracks. So the idea of railroading is you're basically putting your players on tracks and not letting them deviate from them.
A story train.
Yeah. Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, I would kind of describe it as like railroading's bad. Give them like a path. They can move around in the path. They can go to like the left and then they can go to the right. They can explore a bit. They should stay on the path. But if you put a train, you can't move on a railroad. You're stuck in one place. That's why I view it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, I feel like the definition is, so prime example, it's kind of like when the DM says, he's really like moving the story along, and when you say, "Oh, I want to go to that shop over there," the DM says, "Yeah, there's an invisible wall. Can't go there, buddy. Sorry." And it's like, there's like,
and it's normally more subtle than that. Yeah. Obviously, it's like, "Oh, the shopkeeper's not in," and it's like, "All right."
Yeah.
Which sometimes needs to be done as the DM. Like they can't. DMs do have to put you in a box to some extent. Which maybe some people disagree with, but that is, of my opinion. Full sandbox is problematic on the opposite end, which would be a different discussion. But so why railroading is bad is because D&D, the players are supposed to be driving the story, right? The DM gets to make all these things, but the players get to drive which things they want to interact with. And so like a train, you can't really drive a train, right? It goes where it goes. But that's not the point of D&D. Everyone's supposed to make a story. And so players are supposed to have agency. And so when you railroad them, it's bad because it's taking away that freedom of the players, right? D&D is not supposed to be a video game. It's special. Role-playing games in general are special because they are not video games. Video games are fun, but what's great about D&D is you can do whatever you want. While video games, you just have to play the story they built you. Right? So D&D is better than video games because you're not railroaded. You shouldn't be, at least. So for example, if you are like a new player, new DM, and you're new to this whole concept in general, in Skyrim or something, right? Your quest might be to kill the dragon. And the only way you can kill the dragon is by going to it and fighting it. It's the only way Skyrim's going to let you kill this dragon. But in D&D, all possible options in real life are open to you. You can
ask for help.
Go to the nearby kingdom, and instead of spending all your energy trying to kill the dragon with your magic and swords, you spend all your energy trying to get an alliance with the king and and allow him to give you his army and go down there and kill the dragon with an army.
That'd be sick.
Right? That'd be awesome. And that's outside the box thinking. That's what makes role playing games and D&D fun.
Yeah. So kind of like railroading is kind of like not letting your players think outside the box and being creative.
Yeah.
With like their stuff, you're like, nope, you gotta go up the mountain. You're like, but I could ask like that tribe of Goliaths over there if they could help. You're like, nope, they're just there in the background, dude.
Yeah, they're not exactly. They're
it's kind of.
And it can also be you having a predetermined outcome, and no matter what they do, that will happen.
Yeah, that's probably the worst. It's like you guys did so well, but sadly, a god comes down and wishes you all gone. And
yeah, like this had to happen. Like you need this villain defeated, or like you as the DM need this villain to survive, but they just really did well in combat.
They roasted it.
But so instead of having them win, you like cheat and you give the villain some extra hit points on behind the screen, and then make them teleport away. And it's like, okay, like that's kind of stuff that is railroading. But what is not railroading? I wanted to make this clear because what is not railroading is going to be important is what you want to actually do in your game. There are things in your game that may seem like railroading but are not. They're actually there to make the game way more fun.
I actually have like an example, like let's say you have a region where your whole campaign's based on this region, right? If your players are like, we want to go to like this world's Africa and like go to the whole separate continent that has nothing to do with this quest.
Yeah.
As a DM, you should be like, no,
So that is a good thing to bring up.
Like, you can't just do everything. You gotta follow. You gotta push the story.
Right. It's not. You have a responsibility as the DM to not railroad your players, to allow them to be creative, to allow them to think outside the box and do special things and have impacts on the story. You cannot preset it. But in return, the players have a responsibility to try to follow what you've planned, because you put in all that work. Like, they shouldn't be like, I'm just gonna throw everything you did away. We're going somewhere else. No, they should respect you, and they should try to the best of their ability to follow what you've given them.
Or like I this is kind of another one. People think this is railroading, but I kind of think it's not. Like the DM says, you got a path to the right and to the left. Like, which one do you choose? And you're like in the forest, and there's always that character that's like, I'll just go straight in the woods. And as a DM, you didn't like plan for that. You can do it, but it's not gonna be as good. But you could say like, oh, there's like plants there that block you and pokes you. And you get
so when it comes,
so like that stuff, it's like unnecessary exploration, I guess.
Yeah,
that's like just really like, why are you doing that? You could just choose a path and it will all be fine.
Yeah, let me flesh that out a little more. That's a good example. So if you're the DM and you're like, you see, so that you're in the forest and you see there's two paths that seem to have been like caused by travel. Like there seems to be like actual paths as opposed to just like straight brush. And you describe both paths and you're like, so you guys are at a crossroads. Like, which one do you take? And then you have the player that says, I don't want to go on either. Let's just go straight. So this can either be fine or it can be not, and it completely depends on the justification for why this player is doing that. If the player, let's say the player's getting chased, right? Or the party's getting chased, and the player's like, hey guys, what if we didn't take one of the paths and we went into the forest? They'd never think we went that way. That's fine. That's like good, great. That's good role playing. That's good role playing. But if they're just saying, nah, I don't know.
Let's just go in for laughs.
That's called being a bad role player. And as the DM, you have total justification to say, I don't want to play. Like if you guys aren't gonna respect my time, then I don't want to play with you, right?
And you have the total right to stand up, walk to the player, and say, bad player, bad.
Yes, I'll go
follow the story.
Yeah, and so that's a super good example. Let's not get too much into it. I think we did a good job there. Just because we are supposed to be talking about the DM's responsibility, not the player's responsibility.
Yes,
but here are a couple other things that are not railroading. Players following clear quests given by the dungeon master. So if the dungeon master gives like,
go kill that guy.
Like you need to take this gem to the tower. You need to take this ring to the volcano, right? That's just story. That's like you need that kind of stuff to you don't want your players just lost, like being like, I don't know, let's go fight that guy, right? No, you need to give them goals. And as a player, and as a DM, it's totally justified to have a story around a quest like that.
It would be very boring if that stuff didn't happen. Like I would be like, I don't know, I guess I should kill this villager and see what happens. Stab.
Yeah.
And it's just like not fun.
And typically these big overarching quests will be agreed upon perhaps in session 0, but ahead of time. It'll be like, hey, the campaign is going to be about this. How do you guys feel about that? And everyone will be like, okay, cool. Now, the way that story goes about is completely where the freedom comes out, right? The players might bring the ring to the volcano via a ship, and they might have this big campaign about boats and stuff. Or they might call in the Eagles and get it done in an hour.
Done that. Get it done in an hour.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing that's not railroading is clear quests, right? It doesn't need to be like open ended.
Or like those people are like, I wish the bad guy was an undead instead of like a giant. So then they say you're railroading. It's like
no, the bad guy
is the bad guy.
Yeah, that's the bad guy.
You can have giants in the story, but like I had players that've done that before. I'm just like,
It's like, yeah, what?
Like, literally, I put them in a jungle environment. They said, how come we can't fight, like, this ice queen? I'm like, you're in the freaking jungle. Like, that like,
Yeah, it's not up to the players to choose that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
like,
if they want to play a nice thing, then play a campaign like that. But it's not your place as a player to, like, mid-session be like, I don't really like the jungle. Can we play somewhere else? No.
I just imagine a character just like, hey, do you guys just want to, like, kill something somewhere else now? It's just like, sure. They leave everyone to die a horrible death from, like, the jungle.
Yeah.
Bunga, I don't know. The jungle spirits, and then they just go and do something. That would be kind of like, why? But, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Linear step-by-step stories. So if you are a player or DM and you're playing your game and it's like, oh, man, our stories are always like, we go kill the villain, we find the note. The note leads us to this quest. And then that quest leads us to this quest. And all we're doing is following the quest. That's totally fine. That's like, that is...
It's like a Batman.
That's normal. It's fine. It doesn't... That's more structured than it has to be. You can play a less structured game and still play D&D perfectly fine. But you also can play it as structured as that and be completely fine as well.
And normally those are really fun, too. Like, that's what the professionals kind of write in the books.
Yeah. You kind of need to do that.
Kinda like you need to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
like
you want to give your players a goal, because if not, then they're just like, I don't know, guys, what do you want to do? And that's not fun.
Let's go drink at the bar for days.
Adventurers don't normally, like people in general, don't just go on adventures for the fun of it. They normally have a reason, right? And so if you don't give them a reason, then it's not fun, and it's hard to roleplay. It's hard to really get your character to go fight monsters when they could just go home to their family, right? You know what I mean? It's not
exactly.
Okay, so there's one. Clear objectives, I think we've already touched on. And so that's like, go do this, and it's like, all right.
I kind of have one that I think is sort of railroading. Is where you kind of...
Well, not railroading. We're doing not railroading here. Let's stay structured. You have one that is railroading? All right, let me quickly just finish out what's not railroading. All right, 2 more things that are not railroading. Preset consequences. Sometimes. So let me explain.
I was literally about to say
preset outcomes are different than preset consequences. So
that's true.
If you have, like, okay, Indiana Jones, right, where he pulls the artifact off and then it, like, delves down, and then, like, now he's being chased by natives and the big rock falls and all these things, like, as a DM, your players might be like, well, hang on, it seems like you kind of, I feel like we would have been chased by natives no matter what we did if we grabbed the artifact. And it's like, yep, well, that's exactly what would have happened.
Well, no dip, Sherlock. Like,
that doesn't mean the outcome is you guys losing or you guys getting captured, right? That's impeding on the players. But if you as players pick up this artifact, and as DM you have made it so that will trigger something, that's fine, because that's how worlds work, right? It's when you're imposing what the players do that is railroading, right?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, what I was gonna say is, like, I was a player to this one. This one was kind of stupid. So, like, you know, we're getting chased by, like, a bunch of goblins and stuff. You know, we're slaughtering, like, literally, like, hundreds of them. You know, we're level 12. So we're just slaughtering them left and right. Literally, this combat dragged on for 3.5 hours until we were all dropped to 0 hit points.
Oh, he just kept throwing.
He just kept throwing goblins and trolls and random stuff for 3 hours. So I was like, all right, and then we got captured, and then we had to sneak. So I was like, obviously that's rare. Like, we should have slaughtered their entire tribe, like, a long time ago.
I see.
You know, yeah.
It was a really big tribe.
Yeah, like, unless they're, like, popping babies and trading.
Now, goblins, there are a lot of them. But, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but, like, so that's what I was going to say about just don't have it, like, where, like, if you do something, like, with the native thing, don't just have it where the natives will capture you. Like, you could escape them, you could
that is railroading.
That's railroading, where the outcome is always the same. It's like, you killed an entire village, you're a god now. You saved the village, you're a god now. You did nothing, you're a god now. You know, it's kind of like...
Yeah. And okay, so that's a good... Like, this will be good... So now let's talk about how to avoid railroading. So I totally get, because I have DM'd, I totally get the pull to that type of railroading, where it's like, I want to give this really cool plot to my players, right? And to do that, I feel like I need certain things to happen. And so maybe you really want this cool session of like you're breaking out of captivity. But in order for that to happen, you need them to get captured. So it's like, okay, I need to it's very tempting to railroad them and say, oh, they're going to be captured. I'm definitely going to make sure they're captured. And there are ways to get it's just that's the wrong way of doing it. So first thing I want to say, whenever you think I need something to happen, I think you're thinking about it wrong. You're already thinking about your role as DM incorrectly. Now, if it works for you, it works for you. But from my perspective, that's incorrect. And the way a DM really should be operating is a neutral party. They have created these enemies, and they have their PCs. And once the session begins, they are neutral. They don't have any agendas. They are just there to facilitate what would happen between the villains and the party. Okay? So if you need something to happen, you don't represent that need during play. Because again, when you're in play, you're neutral. When you represent it is in your prep. So if you need them to be captured, quote unquote, again, not the correct best way of thinking about it, then make this dungeon very hard. But once you start playing, if they still somehow come out on top, you have to respect that. But still make it challenging. Now, of course, don't make it like impossible unless there are ways doing it right. And I'd say foreshadowing, like if you give warnings to them, like, hey, there's a
scorch marks all over the walls.
There's a super powerful wizard in that cave. If you go in there, it's bad news. And if they still do it, then it's like, okay, that's totally justified to beat them. Like, to have them go up against what you said was in there. But in general, when you're prepping, that's when you want to think about what you want to happen. Because it makes sense. You do want certain things to happen. Like the plot does kind of rest on your shoulders. But it becomes railroading once you force those things to happen. You know what I mean? You have to set them up and then see what happens. The PCs may just, bowl them all down and really do a good job. And you have to give them those victories because obviously that won't happen all the time. And so a campaign where the PCs are just constantly getting beat, but the plot's moving, but they're constantly getting beat, and the only time they win is when you've basically allowed them to win, they pick up on that, and it really does take the fun out of it. It really is fun to give them, to prep something, and then just see if they can beat it, right? To just you be writing your story and making them, and you can do it really subtly. Like, railroading is really easy to do sometimes without them knowing. But trust me, it is more fun to just see
what happens. It's like you're like a scientist. You're mixing some stuff up. You're like, let's see what happens, When I put in this mega troll, with the party, let's see what happens. If they kill it, they get some good stuff. If they don't, one of them gets eaten.
And the fun can really be in your prep. So, like, make this encounter really detailed and really challenging, and like there may be a trap here, and if they trigger this happens, and all this, and it could be really intense but you just know you're going up against 4 smart people on average, so you got to use all your brain power to make an encounter that is challenging to them, right? You have to be strategic when you're prepping, but it's not the time to be strategic as the DM when you're playing, because that's cheating. That's not beating them fairly, or making it challenging fairly. That's just you saying, you do this, okay, it didn't matter, this was going to happen. You know what I mean? That's not real challenge, and it's not fun for anyone.
Don't abuse your god powers, DM, alright?
Yeah.
Don't be like, nope, fire's actually bubbles in this world, so only for like this certain amount of seconds, you just shot bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Okay, so here is another thing. There are some parts of a story that you may feel would be fun to do, but would be completely railroading. And I have actually done this for sure. And it's basically one of them is starting a campaign with like a cinematic or like a cutscene, or just like you're getting the plot hook, right? And it makes sense that would need to be railroaded to some extent. You know what I mean? Like if you need to introduce this extremely vital aspect that will spark the entire campaign, it makes sense that you kind of do need that to happen. If that doesn't happen, then the whole campaign you guys agreed upon won't happen. And it's like, well, wait a second. We were supposed to be playing this. We just killed him in the first session. That's a problem, right? Okay, so...
Sorry, guys. Session ends. You're all dead.
Right. And so when it comes to stuff like this, it's good as a DM to remember that the entire fun of your game, like the funness of your entire campaign, does not rest solely on your shoulders as DM. Your players are also responsible for making it fun, right? It's everyone's job to make it fun. And so when it's something like this, just be straight up with them. Just play on the fact that it's everyone's responsibility and say, hey, this is what I was thinking for the way it would start. There would be this battle, and it would like set up everything, but it would be kind of railroady in that it would end this way. Are you guys okay with that? Or do you guys just want to skip it and go right to the point where you guys have full agency?
Like you're in a tavern.
Or it's like right at the point when you just basically tell them what happened. Because maybe they don't want to waste their time playing something that doesn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, that's true. Or like, what I think about, don't do like the Skyrim intro. Don't like wake up like, oh, you're going to get executed. You know, don't be like, hey.
Fine with that intro.
Hey.
But yeah.
Finally awake. You tried to cross the border, right?
Yeah.
And you fell into that Imperial ambush. Same as us. And that thief over there. You know, don't be
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That'd be sick, though.
Openings are a little hard, and I think there's a little more leniency with openings.
I think doing it with combat's kind of good, though.
I like combat. So some people would say thrusting them into combat or tying them up and saying they're going to be executed right out of the gate is railroading because it's taking away their agency like immediately. It's like, wait, I didn't want to be in this combat. It's like, well, that's how it's starting. It's like, well, what? But again,
who says that? I didn't want to be in this combat. But everyone wants to kill stuff.
That's true. I think it's a great way to start, and I think the beginning, if you're worried about it after listening to this, there's no harm in just saying, this is how I think it's going to start. What do you guys think about that? And if someone has a problem, then skip it or something. But yeah, you totally be open to just talking to your players about how something goes down. And you just want to show them that you not only respect their agency, as you should show them, but you also really want to put in effort to make the story good and make them have fun and intrigue and mystery, because they will have so much more fun if you're putting in that effort. Nothing worse to me than a DM who isn't focusing on the story and stuff, because it's just like, all right, is this just a board game? Like, are we just fighting another? Like, I want story, right? I don't want to just be fighting something for no reason.
There's actually some people that do like the board game part, which I literally do not understand.
I like it. No, I totally like combat in a board game sense.
They just want to do that.
Yeah, that's totally fine. If that's what you're into, that's fine. But if I'm sitting down to play a D&D campaign, I'm expecting there's going to be story, right?
Right, yeah.
So yes. Let's see what else we got on this topic.
I got one little thing.
Go for it.
Yeah, so basically I kind of think of railroading. It's kind of like it's actually really hard not to railroad. Like you kind of sort of have to sometimes. In my you have to do it like slightly.
Well,
but like,
yeah,
you have to give reason to. That's kind of like the main part. If there's no reason of that thing happening, why is it happening? Yeah. You know, that's kind of like the biggest reason. So I guess that's a definition of railroading. It's like if something happens and it's guaranteed and you can't explain it, that's railroading. If you make it make sense, then it's like railroading. Like people say, oh, I won't be in this combat. It's like, well, what happens if the drow pop a portal, you know, they start attacking you? Like, you're not going to fight, you know, like, it's like in the action, like, what would people
I don't think that's railroading. I think that's just...
that's just
you
good.
Just need to give reasons.
But, like, what I think is, like, railroading is something that will always happen, no buts, no ifs, and you can't explain why it's happening.
Yeah, sure.
Like that. It's like, you're a god now. It's like, but I just killed all those people. Yeah, I know, you're a god. Alternate dimension, the multiverse. Yeah, I saved all those people. You're a god now.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Kind of like,
exactly.
Just like, whatever you do, you're a god.
And as a DM, you got to be honest about those things. Yeah. Because they don't know what you prepped. So it really will just come out at some point, and it'll be icky. Yeah. But okay, so when railroading happens because most of the time with good intentions, because you just want your players to have a good story, right? You want them to not just be running around fighting farmers and like not finding anything fun.
Fighting farmers are fun.
Sure.
Gives you XP.
Oh wow.
That's awful.
So here's my tip on how to give to try to get the story rolling without being railroady. So in the beginning, your players have literally no reason to do anything, right? It's a fresh new campaign, blank page. If you were to say you're in a forest and that's it, that would be the most boring beginning ever, because they'd be like,
what do we do?
Okay, I look around. Is there anything interesting? Nope, just trees. Like, that's the worst beginning.
There's a tree in.
Yeah, that's a bad beginning. So, sure. But, so what I would suggest is, in the beginning, you want to be very explicit with your plot hooks. You want to give very strong plot hooks. You want to be like, this is what's happening. Like, this woman needs your help. It's very explicit. It's you know, if you were to just drop it in the middle of a campaign, it might feel contrived. But in the beginning, I think you just need to really get the ball rolling. You need to say, like, this is important. As the PCs, I understand you guys have the choice to do whatever you want, but this thing you should probably do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be explicit about it, because it's starting it all. If they don't do it, then you're like, okay, you go somewhere else in the forest, and then it's just endless nonsense.
But I like going in the forest.
Yeah, I mean, sandboxes can work, and we'll get into how, but in general, in the beginning, I suggest strong plot hooks. Tell them in the most explicit way you can, without being, like, overly explicit, that they need to do something. This is a quest. Give them a clear quest, basically. And that might just be, there's a town up there, you're getting attacked, and you're not going to win this fight, so you better get to that town. It's safe. Go, 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 run. So now they just need to get to the town, and then you start from there. Right. There you go. And then that's step one. And then from there, once they kind of finish the goal that you have explicitly told them to do, you give them a new one. And this one might be a little less explicit, and you slowly kind of build momentum. And you get them used to following a line of story to where they still have all their agency, but their mind no longer goes to, why am I even going to this town? It's like, no, you've like subtly built this story by giving them a strong hook and then just kind of like pulling them. It's kind of like if you were to like grapple someone, the initial yank to get them to move would need to be really strong. But then once they're like stumbling or once they're moving or rolling, it takes much less effort to pull. And so you do an initial yank and then you just kind of lightly pull to keep them going. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense.
No, that just makes sense. It's like, get over here.
Yeah, get over here. And then once they get there, it's like, okay, you did it, but you found this thing. And then they're like, huh, okay.
I ignore the thing and I go the other direction.
But if you were to just start out with, oh yeah, you see this thing, they might be like, okay. But now that you've yanked them, they're kind of like willing to keep going with it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything to say about that or anything further?
I'm actually done with this part. I actually didn't know you had so much stuff. Very impressed.
I am the owl after all.
Roar. I'm just
okay.
Angry bear.
Yeah, so this is going to be a longer episode, so I think that's about all I have. Just to emphasize, railroading is tempting, but just in general, whenever you prep something, prep whatever you want to prep. But once you start playing, do it with reason, and once you start playing, you need to take on this hat of neutrality. When you are the DM, you have to be able to switch between different mindsets.
Balance is key in the universe.
Yes. Like, you're the evil wizard, so now you need to think, as the evil wizard, how can I beat this party with everything the evil wizard would know? They're not going to know, perhaps, all the vulnerabilities of the party and all that you know as DM. You need to say, what am I? What do I know as this wizard? What do I want? And what would I do to do this? And this whole podcast is to help you do that. Like, we are saying, if you are playing a treant as a DM, this is what you want to factor in.
Chuck rocks.
So that you can be honest about what the treant would do and not just do what you as the DM will strategize for them. right?
Exactly. Yep. So we just, our goal, give you ideas and,
Yeah.
kind of show you the way.
But don't forget that if your players aren't following your story, it may be their fault. They may need to put in a little more effort to follow your story.
And you have the total right to embarrass all their characters.
Yeah.
In this world.
A strong wind blows and their pants are pulled from them. And they're all standing.
Everyone in the forest says, ha, ha, ha. Look at them with their little cheeks.
Yes.
Oh.
And emphasize little.
And look at that little orc over there. Oh, what are you going to do?
Right.
And
Okay.
Goblin, dang, Goblin, you're packed.
So that is the end of the DM question. Now we will get into